And good Friday morning. It is Friday, October 16th. It is 8:01 a.m. And we are continuing our conversations with the candidates. And we have dove into the Middletown Town Council this week, as well as Newport School Committee. We'll continue conversations with candidates today and throughout the weekend. But today we're going to make a stop in Portsmouth. We're heading all the way up north to the great town of Portsmouth. And Daniela Abbott joins us this morning. Good morning, Daniela.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
Doing all right. And let's see here. Let me just get rid of this vote here. And I thank you for joining me this morning.
Thank you.
Nice and early. And, you are currently on Portsmouth Town Council and you're seeking re-election. But for those voters who may have just moved to Portsmouth, maybe voting for the first time, why don't you give us a little bit of background on yourself?
Sure. I've lived in Portsmouth since 2010. My husband and I moved here from New York City, actually. So it was a bit of a big change for us. But we had lived in Rhode Island before, in Bristol. I was born and raised actually in São Paulo, Brazil. My mother is Brazilian, but my father is American, actually from the Midwest. So I moved to the U.S. to go to college and then met my husband and stayed. And we moved to Portsmouth when I was 5 months pregnant with my daughter and chose Portsmouth as the town that we were going to live in and raise our kids. And we have loved living here since.
Excellent. How long have you been on Portsmouth Town Council?
2 years. So I'm just wrapping up my first term and seeking re-election for my second term.
And, when the thoughts were going through your head on putting your name back in the ring, what made you want to run again for Portsmouth Town Council?
Oy vey. I will be honest, with the pandemic and working from home and kids having to do school from home, I was kind of torn because I have a lot on my plate right now. But there's so many things going on in the town of Portsmouth and some really important things that we're working on in the town council that I really wanted to keep going with it and see those things through. And there's there's a couple key things that we're working on right now that I think are really, really important for the residents of Portsmouth, our quality of life, and for the future of the town.
All week we've been hearing from Middletown and Newport candidates, and I've been hearing about the issues in their town. We have viewers they could be from anywhere, but what are some of the biggest issues happening in Portsmouth right now? Kind of the quiet community on Aquidneck Island. Enlighten us on what the Portsmouth voters and Portsmouth residents are thinking about and worried about, or see as improvements, things that can be improved.
Okay. So, that's a really big question.
Yeah, I know.
So I'll say that I think if you look at the big picture in Portsmouth, there's a couple key things that Portsmouth residents tend to really care about. I think schools is the big one. I think we really owe ourselves a round of applause, for lack of a better phrase, for really getting our kids back in school with the 7th to 12th graders going hybrid, but getting the elementary school kids and 5th and 6th graders back every day is really quite an achievement. And so far it's going pretty well. Obviously, there's some growing pains here and there, but I think supporting that and making that possible in our town is first and foremost on a lot of people's minds. So I'm very proud of our school committee's work on that and our school department's work on that. And as the town council, we kind of sit in the background of that, but I'm happy that we can support those efforts. I think the other big thing that we always think about, and is probably the primary role of the town council, is making sure that we pass a thoughtful, fair, and well-reasoned town budget every year. So those are the things that we're kind of always working on. The two things that are sort of new and outside of what has traditionally been done by the town council in the past that I'm working actively on and feel very strongly about is roadway improvements and coming up with a master plan for all our parks and recreation properties and integrating that into our capital improvement plan. So I'm going to take just a couple minutes to talk about each of those. For roadway improvements, there's two things we're working on. We kind of ramped up our interaction with RIDOT and asked them to do a road safety assessment for East Main Road. They're in the process of finalizing that document and will present it to us again. So there's a lot of communication there. A lot of it is led by our town planner, but the town council does kind of weigh in and help with that process as well. There's a lot of work to be done on that front. We have, a lot of needs with regards to our state roads in town. And then the second effort is we are currently working on a green and complete streets ordinance for our town, which I personally feel very, very strongly about. I think, in Portsmouth, if we can just focus on a handful of secondary or feeder roads that we could improve to provide a connected network of pedestrian and bicycle routes in our town, and maybe improve the infrastructure that we have for those that ride public transportation through Portsmouth, I think it would go a long, long way towards making our preparing our town for the future and improving our quality of life, because it's really important to provide people of all abilities and all modes of transportation the right infrastructure to be able to do that. So, that ordinance is something that's in development right now, and it's going to be tailored to fit what Portsmouth needs. And then the other thing that I was talking about, a couple years ago, we did we completed a facility assessment that looked all at the town-owned properties. Portsmouth actually owns a lot of properties, acres and acres of open space and recreational facilities. We have some pretty old buildings that we own that are in need of a lot of maintenance and repair. And we're working on getting funding right now to complete a master plan that looks at all of our parks, recreation, and open space properties, so we can really plan for the future and sort of think ahead and try to prepare for the funding that we're going to need to allocate to be able to be good stewards of the properties that we own, and really focus on what the needs are for our community now and in the future, so that the town's properties and facilities can kind of meet those needs.
That's a mouthful, and that's a lot to do. You're going to have to extend the terms to about 10 years if you want to, I think, accomplish that in your next term. But that's a lot. I know there has been a lot of talk, and when we were interviewing the candidates for state rep, a lot of talk about the safety of East Main Road, the safety of the cross streets that connect East Main and West Main Road. And it sounds like all of those things are, in line with these plans here.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you just drive on Union Street or Stubtoe Lane and you see, middle school aged kids walking to Cumberland Farms or walking to the middle school, and they have to walk in the middle of the road because we have very little, we don't have shoulders, we don't have sidewalks. So there's a whole host of improvements that we could make that could start addressing those issues.
Are there any other issues or topics that you're hearing regularly from Portsmouth voters?
There's been a lot of questions or comments about National Grid and their infrastructure coming into Old Mill Lane. That's a big topic that is still getting resolved. Tax assessments and tax rates always come up, but that's a part of our budget discussions. The two big ones that I hear about all the time are road safety and our, taking care of our town infrastructure. So that's why I'm focusing on those two.
What are you hearing from a sitting town councilor position or from voters regarding all of the school talk to the south, the regionalization talk, the unification talk down south? Has that even made it to the northern part of the island, or is it not something that Portsmouth is going to think about until there's another step forward down to the south?
So, I think as the town council, we are very receptive to talking about different ideas or solutions, and would love to collaborate with Middletown and Newport to help improve the quality of education for students across the island. What that ultimately looks like, I think, is a pretty contentious topic, and there's a lot of division on it. I don't know if there's too much appetite in Portsmouth for regionalization. I personally think that we, for the future of our community, should at least discuss and consider all the alternatives. I don't really know what the right answer is, and I think it's it's a tough subject. I think we're open to discussion. We're open to different solutions and ideas, but whatever we ultimately do if there's going to be any kind of collaboration. And I don't like using the word regionalization because I think it gets kind of skewed beyond what it actually means. Whatever we do in terms of collaboration between school districts, it would be good to see Newport, Middletown, and Portsmouth kind of work on a solution together.
And I'm not sure some days when talking to people if anybody has the 100% correct answer. I think it needs to be a big conversation.
Yeah.
Looking at the numbers, I mean, people are already turning out to vote in Portsmouth. 450 people have already turned out to town hall to cast early votes. 42 have already voted by mail. How has this election season, I know it's just your second, been during the COVID-19 pandemic?
So weird. I mean, the last time I ran, it was my first run. So it was very different, but I was meeting people, I was knocking on doors, I was going to events, and you felt much more engaged with the community. Now during the pandemic, my kids are back at school, but my husband and I have both been working from home since March. So I feel very kind of isolated and disconnected, and trying to keep in touch as much as possible. I think doing this kind of thing is very helpful, but it feels a lot less engaged than I would like it to be. And it's just, it's just a whole new world right now. So we're doing what we can, but I'm not door knocking because it's, I don't feel comfortable with it. I don't want other people to feel uncomfortable with it. We're not having any events. So it feels very, very different. And I just, have been trying to get stuff out there, hoping that people are absorbing it through newspapers, social media, outlets like this, and following what we're doing on the news. But who knows? We'll find out in November.
That's it. You are the first candidate from Portsmouth Town Council I've had on, so I've got to ask the question, and I'll make sure I ask everybody. There were 18 candidates running in Middletown for their town council, 12 running in Newport. There's just 8 running for 7 seats in Portsmouth. Is that a credit to the job that the current council is doing?
I hope so. I really do. I'll go ahead and claim credit for it and say, yes, it is. Yeah, to be honest, that was a surprise. None of us expected that. We didn't really know for sure until after the deadline had passed. So I was surprised, did not expect that. We, as the Democrats, we filled our slate with what we think is a great slate. And then, the Republicans have one candidate running who's been on the council for a long time. And it's just how it kind of shook out this time. And it's interesting. But yeah, I don't know if COVID played a role in that, to be honest. They probably did, because it makes it harder to run. And, maybe other candidates that had been thinking about it decided that given the circumstances, and trying to unseat incumbents was not worth it. I don't know. But we'll just go with the first thing. And we're doing such a great job that they decided that it's not worth running against us.
Well, it shows, both candidates in Newport and Middletown have said that they believe that more candidates are running this year because of the whole school bond question. In Middletown, the regionalization drama that happened there. But it shows how people run on issues and how many more people ran down there just because of an issue. One of the unique thing Portsmouth does is they do tie party affiliations to the candidates. The only community on the island that does that.
I know, and it's weird. That's such a tough subject, and to be perfectly frank, I'm very torn on it. We talked about it when we were considering changes to our town charter earlier this year. And I had originally been leaning towards, changing to nonpartisan elections, had a lot of conversations with a lot of different people. I think there's pros and cons to both sides. But I thought about it a lot. And at the end of the day, I concluded that as a new candidate 2 years ago, I would never have run if I hadn't been, kind of guided and shepherded and helped by the town's Democratic committee. They were super helpful in helping me figure out what I needed to do when. They, I participated in their event, so I didn't have to like go out on my own to do fundraising and door knocking and mailers and all that kind of stuff. So I think it provides an infrastructure that makes it easier for newbies like myself to come in and run for office. I think the downside is that because we have party affiliation and because of the Hatch Act, there's a lot of federal employees that live in Portsmouth that would be wonderful town council candidates that are not able to run. So I could sit here and argue both sides for a long time, and yeah, it's makes it different. It does also, though, give us more consensus on some topics. We still have plenty of split votes that kind of float back and forth, but we do have a platform, and we all kind of really consider it and think about it and rely on those underlying values when we're making decisions at the end of the day.
One of the things I was surprised looking at the, if you visit, everybody should visit, no matter where you live in Rhode Island, vote.sos.ri.gov. You can see your sample ballot. And on the backside of Portsmouth's, people have some homework to do, and people are going to be spending a little bit of time. In Newport, we have 2 questions. In Portsmouth, we have 13 questions.
We do. I've gotten a lot of people who have reached out like, what do I do about this? This is so many questions. There's a lot of information. They're all changes to our town charter. We had a charter review this year. A lot of changes are just like grammatical changes or changes in the language. There's nothing really, no big fundamental questions. I would like to clarify there's one item that's being changed that is addressing the order that the names appear on ballots. The way our town charter was written, it sounded like names were put on the ballot alphabetically, which would put my name at the top every time with last name Abbott. But it has never been done that way because it's against state law. State law requires that they do a random lottery to decide the order of the ballot. So our town charter was actually inconsistent with state law. So we are changing the language in the town charter so that it's consistent with state law and consistent with how it's historically been done for I don't know how long. And if you look at the ballot, you will notice that my name is actually dead last. So that was a random lottery, and I would just like to remind everybody to make sure you scroll all the way down so you don't miss my name at the bottom.
Excellent. And so it sounds like people should read them all. People should go on now before they head to town hall or before they fill out their mail ballot, or they can do it while they're filling out their mail ballot. But sounds like a lot of them are just housekeeping.
Yeah, most of them are just housekeeping. They're really, to be honest, some of the big, more contentious ones got shelved. Some of them to my dismay, but not all. So,
all right. Daniela, is there, I know, we could talk forever, but are there any other topics, issues, points that you want to make today?
No, not really. I think we kind of covered all the stuff that is, near and dear to my heart. And I just urge everybody to take a look at that sample ballot, do your homework, kind of think about the things that you care about our town, and reach out to any of your counselors to find out what's going on and where we stand on issues. Portsmouth Democrats do have a website that has some information about each of the candidates and about our platform. I have a campaign page on Facebook where I do post some information. Some other candidates do as well. And we have some really good candidates in Portsmouth. So I think there's a lot of really good work to be done in the next 2 years. Excellent.
Well, we wish you the very best of luck. We encourage anybody out there who wants more information to get in touch with Daniela. And any other contact information you want to put out there, or just that's pretty good?
Sure. You can find me on Facebook. That's probably the easiest. But my town council email is dabbott@portsmouthri.com.
Excellent. Well, we wish you the very best of luck on November 3rd. I keep doing November 6th for some reason. November 3rd and leading up to voters in Portsmouth are actively engaged.
Yeah.
There's a really cool tool from the Board of Elections where they're updating it twice a day. And right now, Portsmouth with 450 early votes, Newport is at 349, and Middletown 323. So Portsmouth voters are the most active right now on Aquidneck Island.
Wow. Actually, that's a good point to make. Early voting is open. You can go to Town Hall and vote during regular business hours every day until November 2nd. And then on November 3rd, Election Day, just look up your polling place on vote.sos.ri.gov.
And look up the town hall information, because I noticed, for example, Portsmouth Town Hall on Thursdays stays open for early voting until 6:30.
Correct.
So, you can kind of work with your schedule there as well. So I appreciate that. Daniela, very best of luck. We will chat with you again soon once we get on the other side of this election. And we wish you the best of luck.
Okay. Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Thank you. And we want to thank Daniela Abbott for joining us. She is currently sitting on the Portsmouth Town Council, and she is seeking re-election. If you missed any portion of this video, you want to share with your friends, coworkers, family, Portsmouth voters, you can find it up on whatsupnewp.com. Coming up later this afternoon, we'll be joined at 2 p.m. by Keith Hamilton, who also sits on Portsmouth Town Council and is seeking re-election. 3 p.m., we head back down to Middletown Town Council, where we'll be joined by Terry Flynn. Thanks for watching.